Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Unable to cultivate, I can only raise soul pets 21. Chapter 21. Teacher Jung and Hasho 39's Guidance. 5 grids, representing 50 years of soul power cultivation. The golden light is pervasive and extremely dazzling. Especially Wang Che on the side. The testing principle of this kind of soul power tester is itself by sensing the fluctuation of soul power in the soul pet. There is no argument that can be concealed. Of course, Wang Che is not going to hide it. Soul power cultivation is only the foundation of soul pets, and cannot represent the strength of soul pets. Yes, even if it's just the basics. 50 years of soul power cultivation, at this stage of enrollment, it is enough to shock all students at this moment. Especially, it's still a green caterpillar. Countless trembling eyes came from all directions. Lin's eyes Ziyun snake, with 40 years of soul power cultivation, was enough to have a surprising eyeball. But now no one thinks that he can still see a soul pet with a soul power cultivation base of 50 years. Enrollment can cultivate the cultivation of the soul pet to this stage. This moment, different from Lin Shi before, bursts of exclamation like a sea of waves erupted. Is unusually quiet, was shocked to the point where he couldn't speak. Wang Che glanced at the green caterpillar. The green caterpillar came down from the tester. It was still a child. Naturally, I can't experience the atmosphere at this time. The green caterpillar suddenly yelled at Wang Che. Wang Che looked around and found that there were also several green caterpillars. At this time, his eyes were on the child. I am not the only student who chooses free soul pet eggs and hatches green caterpillars. They are all lucky people. It was probably the same kind of eyes that made the green caterpillar feel a little uncomfortable. It has not been experienced yet. Even, in addition to the gazes of the soul pets of the same kind, there are also many soul pets' gazes, which are all focused on the green caterpillar at this time. It seems to be the most beautiful cub among soul pets at this moment. It's just that the child's eyes gathered at this moment were a little puzzled. Therefore, it yelled to its own soul master, questioning in its heart. Your classmates think you are quite ordinary. So, you continue to cheer. Wang Che explained, the rest, they are provoking you with their eyes. Green caterpillar, hollow diamond, it seems a little confused, it feels like it's not what Wang Che said. You don't believe it, Wang Che said as he walked down with the green caterpillar. If you don't believe it, just look at it with your eyes. They will definitely not look at you. Because they won't treat you a green caterpillar as an opponent. Put it in your eyes. Green caterpillar believed it was true, and immediately glanced at the soul pets. As expected, under its gaze, all soul pets shifted their gazes. The pressure of 50 years of soul power cultivation really made these soul pets unable to look directly. Especially this child, because of the exercise of self-discipline and Wang Che's careful training, he has cultivated a little bit of aura. Of course, it cannot detect it by itself. See this scene. The green caterpillar was suddenly aroused in his heart. I feel that I still need to work harder. After all, the green caterpillar in the story is already so powerful. It can't fall. Very good, that's it. Wang Che nodded. Keep this momentum, and wait a few days for the Kiming Cup. None of them are your opponents. Thought in his heart, if this child is older and has reached 12 or 13 years of age, it will be difficult for him to fool. But it's bigger, the character and everything are already formed, and it's more sensible, and there is no need to flicker. Walked back to class. The test continues. 50 years of soul power cultivation. Wang Che, you are too. I thought we were enough to pretend. I didn't expect your old man to be good. It's okay, it hasn't evolved. I was in the group at the time. I knew it was not easy with these simple words. Brother Che can cultivate a green caterpillar for 50 years in just 2 weeks. Honestly, did you open it? Are you Brother Che or your Brother Che? Many classmates teased. The praise and envy in the words are real. But there are not many other meanings. Because they all know that cultivating soul pets is just the beginning. The road behind is still very long. In contrast, they are more concerned about how to train their soul pets in the next 7 days to get a better place in the Kiming Cup. Is to cultivate better, and then smoothly awaken the martial soul. Other than that, there was only one person watching quietly and calmly, without saying a word. However, today's 5-frame golden light can also become a topic that countless students talk about. Even became the beginning of many teachers, parents, and students' education. Look at Wang Che, a green caterpillar can grow so fast. Are you looking at yourself? After the test is over, teachers in each class brought their students to their respective teaching areas in the playground. This playground is very large. Just now when testing the spirit power, many students surround it, and it only occupies less than 1/10 of the area. Just gathered in the center. In various places in the playground, special training areas are divided for each class according to the different vegetation planted. Of course, cultural classes still need to be studied in the teaching building. At that time, the soul pet will be placed in the soul pet recovery center in the school, and there will be special personnel to take care of it and rest and recover. Basically, since high school, a soul pet recovery center will be deployed. Before I start training for you, let me briefly talk about the rules of the Kimming Cup. Teacher Jung brought more than 40 students to the teaching area where they were. With a wave of their hands, everyone stopped. The Kimming Cup is mainly aimed at the entry-level soul pet battles held by the 3 major universities in Tianjin City. Teacher Jung coughed a few times, that is, the 3 high schools of number 1 middle school, Xingyu, and Nanhu. There are about 1,000 students in the 3rd grade of high school. The method of self-registration is adopted. It is not forced to participate, because it is just for the enrollment of you to feel simple the soul pet battle atmosphere. Of course, I know that you have seen large-scale soul pet battles held in many continents and even war zones on the internet. But what you see on the internet, what you actually feel, seeing it up close, or even participating in chess in person, are 2 different things. Kimming Cup, as an entry-level soul pet battle, for you, it is the closest and most touchable match for you now. Teacher Jung's expression became serious when he said this. First of all, it is necessary to explain that soul pet battles are games of a certain entertaining nature. Even the most advanced soul pet battles are the same. The most fundamental purpose is to let the soul pet masters know more about their soul pets. The Kimming Cup adopts the method of self-registration. The game adopts a simple bow-1 elimination system, which is determined by the lottery allocation, and one loses 1 game and is directly eliminated. Because there is a bye, in theory, if you are lucky enough to guard against the sky, you might be able to win directly. Teacher Jung coughed a few times, took out the water glass, took a sip, and continued. This is the simple rule. If you are rewarded, the top 10, except for the first place, will not be far behind. There is a consolation prize within 100. Of course, the process is more important. The teacher suggested that after 7 days of training, you can all participate and try. Even if it's only a match, you can still feel the atmosphere. Of course, the most important thing is to deepen your understanding of your soul pet. The general rules, Mr. Jung said clearly. Wang Che counted it, there were more than 1,000 people. If it is assumed that everyone participates, it may only be necessary to play 11 or 2 games and it will be over. To put it simply, if you want to win the championship, you have to win more than 10 games in a row. It is very difficult, but the first level soul pet battle is very fast, and the soul pet battle may often last for a few minutes. The comparison can be completed in 3 or 4 days at the earliest, regardless of the venue. But if you want to be in the top 10, you probably need to win more than 7 games. It is indeed difficult, but not out of reach. Because the soul pets of high school 3rd year students are mostly ordinary and rare soul pets, most of the soul power cultivation bases are not much different. The physical quality of the soul pet is also impossible to get a distance through training in just 7 days. Under the circumstances of not much difference www.readwn.com winning or losing is naturally unpredictable. If you can comprehend the soul abilities, and can also exert several times the power of your own, your chances of winning will be even higher. A primary game with a certain welfare nature. Single quote. Wang Che understood. The purpose of itself is mainly to encourage. The rewards are not bad. Well, the rules will stop here for the time being. Next, I will explain the training points of each soul pet for you. In the past 7 days, those who have not yet enlightened their soul pets will have enlightenment as their goal. Those who have been enlightened and have a certain level of cultivation have their goal of improving their soul power cultivation. Those who have a high level of soul power cultivation are aimed at comprehending and awakening soul abilities as the goal. Next, Teacher Jung began to teach and train each student's soul pet one by one. The tree frog is good at speed, and has great strength. For the 10-year choice of spirit ability, you can choose the conventional spirit ability that combines speed and attack, jump into the air. Or choose the spirit ability, water bomb. But the spirit ability is better. It's hard to comprehend, and the requirements for soul power are higher, and the power is greater. Poppet Cotton is a conventional type of soul pet. Its strength, speed, and vigor are relatively weak in all aspects. But the first 10 years of soul skills it can comprehend are extremely beneficial to this competition. Atomization. Yes. Give your body 50% resistance to vigor attacks. If you can understand it, it will be perfectly fine to enter the top 100 in the Kimming Cup. The 100-flower beast is a grass and tree soul pet. It has the biggest characteristic in its juvenile period and has superior defense. Among the 10-year soul ability comprehension choices, there is a defensive one, aggregation. It makes the whole body shrink and shrinks, which can not only improve defense, it can also dodge the enemy's attack when it is critical. The genus spirit ability that is inclined to control, soft powder. It can spit out pollen that makes the enemy temporarily weak, and it is more difficult to comprehend. Unable to cultivate, I can only raise soul pets 22. Chapter 22. Proud Ziyun Snake. Teacher Zheng gave guidance to each student one by one and was very serious. And made a general plan for the training direction of each student's future soul pets and soul skills comprehension. Until Lin Shi. Teacher Zheng looked at the Ziyun snake next to Lin Shi. This Ziyun snake was very arrogant and did not look at Teacher Zheng. It looks very beautiful, just like its owner, standing there quietly, with an extremely humane look of disdain in its eyes. Probably disdains those soul pets that Teacher Zheng said. This kid is more proud. Lin Shi said. It's not just pride. Teacher Zheng shook his head, a little embarrassed. It is very intelligent, and a young soul pet of the Jijin type will be very high after being enlightened. It is also difficult for ordinary people to get its approval. It is very difficult to sign a life soul contract with its soul pet egg. Ji Yun Snake shook his Ganoderma-like tail lightly, and combed it with his small palm. Then walked towards the small tree on the side, as if he didn't want this Teacher Zheng to guide him. With such an arrogant posture, the rest of the soul pets didn't dare to approach it, and were a little scared, so they gave way to it one after another. Until he walked in front of Wang Che, he was blocked by the green caterpillar behind Wang Che, who was in a daze. Ji Yun Snake raised his head slightly, and glanced at the green caterpillar, which was much larger than its body and had a higher spirit power cultivation base. There is no trace of fear at all. There was still a slight disdain in his eyes. Chi. Ji Yun Snake made a faint voice, as if saying to leave. Green caterpillar. Compared with this Ziyun Snake, this child's spirit is slightly 3 or 4 years younger. The wisdom of the Ziyun Snake, according to Wang Che's estimation, may have reached the level of a human being 11 or 12 years old. Green caterpillars are 5 or 6 years old when they hatch. After this period of training, I have risen a bit. But not so fast. Otherwise, when Wang Che tells a story, he will not tell and paint while he is telling. In addition to giving the child a sense of substitution, it is also to help him better understand the content of the story. The motionlessness of the green caterpillar made Ziyun Snake unhappy. After all, soul pets of different races are not so easy to understand in terms of language. Unless the intelligence is very high. Chi. Ziyun Snake's voice became louder, and she pointed her finger to the side, beckoning it to move away. Now, the green caterpillar probably understands. However, it looked at Wang Che first. Wang Che smiled and nodded. The green caterpillar walked to the other side of Wang Che very well. Mr. Zheng's eyes flickered when he saw this. Is such a small thing, it is enough to see. The two sides have cultivated an intimacy with their own soul pets. Lin Shi was silent for a while, feeling a little hot on her face. This is actually not a good performance for soul pets. The young soul pet left the Chi Soul Master at will, and did not ask the Chi Soul Master's opinion, and the personality could not converge, which means that the soul pet has not been cultivated well. This has nothing to do with the aptitude, soul power cultivation base, and strength of the soul pet. Otherwise, this Ziyun Snake's eyes will not have such an expression of disdain. Seeing this, everyone was slightly silent and embarrassed, and they probably saw something. Extremely rare soul pets are more difficult to cultivate. Wang Che glanced at everyone and said, Teacher Jung, we should also have a chance to get extremely rare soul pets in the future. How should we cultivate them then? As soon as the topic changed, everyone suddenly became interested and looked at Teacher Jung. Teacher Jung smiled, thinking that you kid is sensible. I happen to be worried about not getting off the stairs. Lin Shi pursed her lips slightly, and glanced at Wang Che. This question is very good. Teacher Jung said solemnly, you will have a chance to get the most precious soul pet in the future. But that must be your second and third soul pet. Extremely precious soul pet, 3 racial potentials over 100, they have extremely high potential, and they can basically be cultivated to the stage of 100,000-year soul beasts. At least 2 powerful spirit rings and spirit abilities can be provided for your martial souls. There are many benefits, so I won't say more about these. But most of the extremely rare soul pets have their own pride. It is not easy to get their approval and deepen the life-soul bond of both parties. The first is soul pet enlightenment. Quote. Immediately afterwards, Teacher Jung started from the soul pet enlightenment and continued to talk about soul skills. Ziyun snake is a very powerful and proud soul pet. Teacher Jung slowly said, among the extremely rare soul pets, it is not weak in every aspect, and it is more comprehensive. There are many soul abilities in 10 years. Choice. The first choice for attacking is the conventional spirit ability, the side strike. As well as the spirit ability, the seed bomb. The seed bomb is a 10-year spirit ability of the Ziyun snake in the early stage. Generally, it is close to 70 years of cultivation, and there is a greater chance of comprehending it. Square tail blow is one of the most powerful and difficult to comprehend in 10 years of soul abilities. It requires soul pets to use themselves and their soul power to a certain degree. It is recommended to train and comprehend first. Afterwards, Teacher Jung took these 2 soul skills comprehension training methods and details one by one. Teacher Jung, this kid is almost comprehending the rattle. After Lin Shi waited for Teacher Jung to finish speaking, she frowned, it's just that it feels like it's always a little too close. Teacher Jung said, she actually knows most of them. Oh, Teacher Jung's eyes lit up, let this kid try it out. After finished, he pointed to the boulder on the side. Lin Shi nodded and beckoned to the Ziyun snake in the distance. Ji Yun snake came over more obediently this time. Ziyun snake, hit this stone with its tail. Use our usual training rhythm. Lin Shi said solemnly. Chi. Ji Yun snake replied feebly. But when it walked towards the huge boulder, its eyes suddenly changed, becoming extremely focused, serious. It rushed over, like a green arc, so fast that everyone couldn't see it at all. Snapped. As approached, only the arc light changed, and a violent light flashed from the tail of the Ziyun snake, and it slammed. Just heard a sound like a firecracker. The huge rock was suddenly shaken out, and it fell more than 10 meters away, and fell to the ground with a dull sound. Everyone was shocked when they saw it. The boulder is half a person tall, and at least 4 or 5 classmates need to move it together before it can move. The Ziyun snake, which is more than 30 centimeters high, just flicked its tail and shot it out directly. This burst of power is terrifying. Teacher Jung walked aside, looked around the boulder for a while, but shook his head slightly. Ziyun snake's explosive rattle strike is very powerful, I don't have to say. But it is too scattered, and there is no trace on the surface of the boulder. In other words, no considerable damage was caused. Although the sound is very loud and powerful, it is more like being pushed out. Can't be regarded as a real backlash. A normal tail shot, logically speaking, should be able to split the boulder in half before it is qualified. Not bad. Teacher Jung nodded slightly, it's already 6 to 7 points. After 7 days, you should be able to fully understand it. A slight smile appeared on Lin Zai's face. Hummish. At this moment, the green caterpillar behind Wang Che suddenly called to Wang Che. Wang Che glanced at the little guy and understood its meaning. I can smash that stone to pieces with one tail. Single quote. Wang Che touched the child's head, coughed twice, beckoning you not to be aggressive. Of course he knows it can. The material of this boulder is the same as the material on the ground during the battle with Yuan Shaola that day. Even if it flicks its tail, it doesn't apply the rattle shot, it can indeed smash the boulder. But isn't it? Wang Che didn't want this little guy to show too much. At this time, Pharaoh, your green caterpillar also has a tail. You may be able to comprehend rattletail strikes. Would you like to try it too? said Shu Haifeng on the side. Everyone was taken aback when they heard this. Lin Shi was also stunned. The Ziyun snake came over, as if he understood this. Yu reading www.uakanshu.com sneered and looked at the green caterpillar behind Wang Che with even more disdain in his eyes. Teacher Zheng coughed a few times, gave Shu Haifeng a glance, and said, "In the green caterpillar's spirit ability sequence, there is no rattle. If you want to comprehend, it's basically very difficult. You guys don't interrupt me." Shu Haifeng smiled. Wang Che glanced at this guy, a little speechless. "Teacher, let Wang Che try it," Lin Shi said suddenly. "The green caterpillar with 50 years of soul power cultivation may have certain variables." Everyone looked at Teacher Zheng without speaking, feeling a bit subtle. Teacher Zheng frowned slightly and looked at Wang Che. What kind of soul pet the green caterpillar is, he knows better than these students. It is impossible to comprehend the rattle strike. Let alone 50 years, 100 years of cultivation is impossible. Plus low race value. If you really try, I am afraid it will only expose the fact that the green caterpillar has such a high cultivation base and the body is still weak. This is definitely not good for Wang Che. After all, he has also been training hard for the past 2 weeks and cultivated for 50 years, only to find that his soul pet is still so weak. Isn't it a blow to him? As a teacher, he naturally thinks more. At this time, let's do it. Wang Che thought for a while, nodded, he looked at the green caterpillar and gave it a look. Seems to be saying, you are not allowed to use soul power, just take a shot. There is a life-soul bond between the two, plus training has been for some time, and there has been a battle. Naturally, there is enough tacit understanding. Green caterpillar. Circle.operator Omega Circle.operator. It blinked, nodded, and walked over. Unable to cultivate, I can only raise soul pets 23. Chapter 23. Acting, shocked. The green caterpillar went out. A pair of eyes seemed to be tracking automatically, following the green caterpillar's figure. It is larger, and slowly creeps past, like a short-legged corgi is walking. Looks very cute, with no destructive power at all, and harmless to humans and animals. When passing by Ziyun Snake's 2 small hands slightly crossed, leaning on Lin Zai's side, with a lack of interest and no intention to watch. It wasn't until Lin Shi patted her that Ji Yunxi squinted at her reluctantly. Teacher Zheng first picked up the stone at random. He glanced at the green caterpillar and didn't know what to say. The tail strike is not a very complicated soul skill, and it is not difficult to comprehend it. But for young soul pets, naturally there is still a certain degree of difficulty. After all, their wits have just been civilized. Therefore, in a short period of time, it is impossible for him to train the green caterpillar to attack with its tail. This is too difficult. Fuck, Pharaoh, did I pit you out? At this time, Shu Haifeng reacted violently, and hurriedly said to Wang Che in a low voice, can't the green caterpillar learn rattletail strike? The main reason is that Ziyun Snake is a bit arrogant. I think someone must treat this little thing. In our class, only you and your green caterpillar have the highest cultivation base. Shu Haifeng can't be said to be completely scumbag, but it can be said to be half a scumbag. The grades in cultural classes are very average, and I don't know much about the soul pet of the green caterpillar. In his opinion, rattles are the kind of soul pets with tails that can perform soul abilities. Green caterpillars also have tails, so they should be able to comprehend them. There is no problem logically. If you want him to recite the soul ability sequence of those soul pets, only some familiar soul pets may understand it. It doesn't count. Wang Che glanced at him. With his insights, it is natural to see that Shu Haifeng didn't mean it just now. Is purely thinking of coaxing, plus the subtle relationship between himself and Lin Shi, and the attitude of that Ziyun Snake. Baby, let's cheer for the green caterpillar. Shu Haifeng poked the head of Baihua Beast in his arms. Hoo-hoo. Baihua Beast seemed to understand, so he could only call out softly. At this moment, as everyone's eyes shifted, the green caterpillar walked up to the huge boulder. Standing in front of the boulder, it seemed to be thinking about what should be done. Suddenly, a small light bulb appeared on its head. The green caterpillar walked up to the boulder at close range, without accelerating or diving, its body changed suddenly. At this moment, its aura seemed to have undergone an earth-shaking change. The fleshy tail contracted extremely quickly, and it instantly solidified like an iron chain, and it was thrown out abruptly, directly hitting the center of the boulder. Is like a hammer hitting a leather drum. Boom! A violent noise broke out on the spot, and a cloud of dust erupted. Under the dust and mist, in the field, only Teacher Jung's eyes changed drastically. Then, the dust mist gradually dispersed. The green caterpillar lay on the ground, as if exhausted. However, on the other side, the boulder has been broken in half. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Fuck, this should be a rattle-tail blow. Shu Haifeng rubbed his eyes. The little thing that Ziyun snake has a tail can't split this boulder in half. But, Lao Wang, what about your green caterpillar? It's a little fictitious, can you only make a single blow? Wang Che. Lin Shi also looked at him in shock. She couldn't imagine how much power was contained in the tail just now, that it could hit that huge boulder directly into 2 knots. Knocking the boulder into the air and splitting it directly are completely 2 concepts. The green caterpillar, who has been cultivated for 50 years, can he be so powerful in one blow? Lin Shi couldn't believe the scene before her. She is also a scholar, and she knows soul pets very well. From the first sight of Wang Che's green caterpillar in the morning, she has roughly calculated the length of the green caterpillar's cultivation level. Although I was surprised in my heart, it didn't show it. Because it is just a green caterpillar, no matter how high the soul power cultivation base is, it still cannot change the weak strength. The huge boulder that split into 2 sections in front of her had subverted her thoughts. The green caterpillar has this power. I feel that my Philippine duck can go to the wall and think about it. It is indeed a bit more exaggerated. Ziyun snake is a very rare soul pet, even if it is not good at power, but its high racial potential allows its body to sling many ordinary soul pets who are good at power. 10 years of soul power cultivation, for the extremely rare soul pet, the gap is almost no. Why is it that the green caterpillar is so strong? Many students cannot understand. The Ziyun snake is even more incomprehensible. The expression in its eyes has changed from disdain to it immediately. Then just froze in place. It can't even imagine why a weak green caterpillar can exert such a huge power. Is better than it. Why, after a while, the green caterpillar turned over and crawled back slowly. It looked at Wang Che. Seems to be saying, quickly compliment me. Good job. Wang Che touched the green caterpillar's head. This kid is pretty good, and he can still act. I probably felt that, as a soul teaching master, he didn't want it to expose too much power. Ms. Zheng, is that a rattle shot? Shu Haifeng asked enthusiastically. Didn't you say that the green caterpillar can't understand the rattle shot? Teacher Zheng looked at the huge boulder for a long time, then looked at Shu Haifeng slowly and said, that's naturally not a rattletail strike. However, Wang Che's green caterpillar is well cultivated, especially the strength. It can be seen that the training intensity is definitely not low these days, and the green caterpillar's potential can be developed. Although it is a race, the potential is very low, but after all, there are 50 years of soul power cultivation. It's just that the power of this blow just now is actually not much stronger than Ziyun snake. But the difference is that the Ziyun snake lacks a little training, and the power formed by the tail flick is too scattered, while the green caterpillar completely concentrates its power in one place. That's why it can directly split the boulder. This must be done after a lot of training. Teacher Zheng looked at Wang Che, his eyes flickered, and finally said with a smile, although the racial potential determines the upper limit of the soul pet, it is not easy to open the huge gap in the early childhood. Through acquired training, it can be bridged. Part of the cloth. Everyone nodded, and they were suddenly stunned. Also, everyone, don't underestimate soul skills. Teacher Zheng said again, the power of soul skills far exceeds our imagination, and can exert a powerful force several times greater than oneself. www.readwn.com. Real sound. If the green caterpillar can really comprehend the tail blow, this boulder will fall apart directly. So, whether it's a green caterpillar or a Ziyun snake, the attack just now can only be regarded as a normal attack. It's like you use your whole body strength to punch people with your fists. It's not a real spirit ability. Speaking of which, a classmate suddenly interrupted and said, Teacher, those are all the same attacks. Wang Che's green caterpillar is so well trained, is it possible to comprehend the soul skill of rattle strike? Teacher Zheng smiled and said, theoretically, it is possible, but in the green caterpillar's soul ability sequence, there is only the item of silk. It is very difficult to re-understand it. But Ziyun Snake is different, its soul ability sequence has a rattle strike. After only a few more days of training, she will be able to quickly comprehend the spirit power operation of the rattle strike. And quickly adapt. Different soul pets have different ways of comprehending side strikes, and they cannot be shared. Therefore, Green Caterpillar wants to comprehend, because it does not have a soul ability sequence, so it can only rely on a lot of training to try and go. Groping. It's extremely difficult to understand, and it's time-consuming. Everyone nodded, but the Ziyun Snake looked at the Green Caterpillar unconvincedly, and yelled at Lin Shi. Lin Shi was silent for a moment, shook her head and said, "This requirement is not acceptable. Also, the training for you is still light. Even a Green Caterpillar can train so well. You obviously have a stronger potential than a Green Caterpillar. The performance is not as good as it is, and I will increase the training intensity in the future." Chi-Chi. Ziyun Snake yelled twice, glanced at the Green Caterpillar, and didn't get angry anymore. And Teacher Zheng came to Wang Che and said, "You kid come with me. Unable to cultivate, I can only raise soul pets 24. Chapter 24. Actually I am taking the championship." Wang Che probably knew what Teacher Zheng was going to say, so he followed him. The two walked aside. "Good boy, I underestimated you." Teacher Zheng turned around and looked at Wang Che, her eyes gleaming. "I didn't expect that Green Caterpillar could be trained like this." "Just now, did you want to hide yourself?" Wang Che said. "Teacher, what do you mean by this?" "Hey." Teacher Zheng squeezed his chin. "Why, you still want to hide it from me?" "I didn't say anything just now." "But your teacher, I'm also a professional soul master, you think I can't tell?" "Just now, your Green Caterpillar didn't even use the soul power. Just relying on the strength of the body, the huge boulder can be destroyed in a single blow." Shattered. "Let me guess, wouldn't your kid really train that kid to comprehend the rattletail strike, right?" The moment he finished speaking, he stared at Wang Che closely. Wang Che smiled and sighed. "I really want to, but I can't do it." "Ha." Teacher Zheng glanced at him and said in his heart, it seemed to be the truth. The strength of this Green Caterpillar's body, without using its spirit power, is stronger than that of Ziyun Snake. This is the first time I have seen this situation, and I have not been able to comprehend the side strike, but with ordinary attacks, it has such power. It's a pity, soul skills are not something you can comprehend if you want to comprehend. Teacher Zheng said slowly, "However, I feel that you might be able to make this Green Caterpillar understand the rattle strike. Its attacking posture just now has the shape of a rattle strike. Just try more, just how to use the spirit power. If it can be done, at the Kimming Cup, your kid should have a chance to enter the top 10. Teacher's auspicious words. Wang Che thought for a while and said with a smile, "Actually, I am taking the championship." Teacher Zheng, "Don't think about the champion." Teacher Zheng said angrily, "In Tianxini, your Green Caterpillar is now the only one in strength, but after all, the potential is insufficient. The other two high school students are not soft persimmons. After 7 days, the strength of the Ziyun Snake is far stronger than you imagined. It's hard for your Green Caterpillar to catch up. Also, although I don't know how your kid trained, but no matter what you get or what adventure you encounter, don't tell it, just know it yourself. I won't say much about that kid, you have your own way of training." The teacher just said so much. Teacher Zheng waved his hand, then turned and left. "Thank you, teacher," Wang Che said, and after a while, he also walked back. This teacher is not easy. One day of study and training is over soon. On the first day of school, almost all senior middle school students are full of motivation and vitality. The training equipment of the school is very complete, from the strength, speed, physical fitness, defense and so on. For the soul pet, there are special equipment and venues for training. Is still free, but after school, if you want to continue training, you may only have to go to the training club. There is no late self-study in the third year of high school. After 7 o'clock in the evening, the third year of high school is over. Because training is not only for soul pets, it also needs training. Need plenty of rest. After school, Wang Che took the Green Caterpillar and planned to go home. This day's training is a solid foundation for the little guy, Green Caterpillar. Didn't make any more eye-catching moves. Because Wang Che feels that the school's training equipment is relatively basic, and for the current green caterpillars, it can only play a role in consolidating the foundation. And the training process is hard to be distracted. Generally, no one is interested in how others train, and most of them are excited and busy training with their soul pets to become stronger. 7 days will pass quickly, and the shortcomings of the little guy must be made up as soon as possible. Wang Che slowly walked out of the school gate, planning in his heart, if you can really train that soul pretense and domineering, it's not impossible to put your soul power out in a nutshell. Single quote. The goal for these 7 days is to directly let this child master the domineering spirit, and it can be regarded as the biggest hole card so far. It's just a certain degree of difficulty. Single quote. It's a child after all. Single quote. At this time, Wang Che had just walked out of the school gate. A figure suddenly appeared in front of him. A pair of snow-white straight thighs, in the afterglow of the setting sun, exudes a luster like amber jade. Pierced Wang Che's eyes, making him slightly uncomfortable. Wang Che glanced at the still graceful and charming figure at his feet that was stretched by the setting sun, and said, Lin Shi, have something to do with me. Lin Shi wears a blue knee-length school skirt with a white shirt on her upper body. Her clothes seem to have rarely changed, and there is no makeup on her face. Her hair is attached to her beautiful cheeks that have been flushed due to training. At this time, if she ignores those deserted eyes, she looks like a neighbor who is like first love. Home girl. Nothing, Lin Shi said, I just want to talk. What are you talking about? Wang Che looked at the time, should it be, it's the same thing. If it is, then forget it. No, Lin Shi shook her head and said lightly, I just want to say, this green caterpillar. Chi-Chi. Ziyun snake beside Lin Shi called twice immediately. Wang Che said with a smile, why, shouldn't it, you want me to fight? He can naturally feel that Ziyun snake is not convinced. Obviously, this Ziyun snake is full of fighting spirit and wants to be tough. Fight directly. Lin Shi was taken aback for a moment, and after a moment of silence, she shook her head and said, no, it's not interesting to fight now. You green caterpillar is really extraordinary, I don't know how you trained. But, forget it. I mean, Kim Cup, if you and I meet, I won't be merciful. Wang Che nodded and said, neither will I. If it's okay, I'll leave first. See here, Lin Shi stroked Ji Yunshi's head slightly, and said softly, don't worry, in 7 days, that green caterpillar is not your opponent. Hey, Ziyun snake yelled immediately, seeming to oppose, it's not my opponent now. You reading www.yuakanshu.com. Lin Shi gave a chuckle, and walked to the side of an ordinary floating car. An unremarkable floating car. After walked in, he could get a glimpse of the luxury inside the floating car. Miss, today's test data of the 2 high schools in Nanhu and Xingyu for the Kim Cup has been released and sent to your mailbox. Would you like to check it out? In front, an old man said immediately. I have already watched it. It's very interesting. Lin Zai's voice was high and flat, by the way, this time the Kim Cup sponsorship. It's Dino technology. Would you like to give that boy a few green lights? Turn on the green light. Why? Lin Shi asked rhetorically. I think you seem to be interested in him. The old man coughed a few times and replied. I'm quite interested, so why not turn on the red light? Lin Shi shook her head, why turn on the green light if I was interested? He just refused it last time. But today, it seems that he would refuse my request. It's not easy to be able to breed a green caterpillar to this level. Lin Shi shook her head lightly, probably a little bit incomprehensible now. Then what do you mean? The old man asked, investigate him. Lin Shi smiled slightly at the corner of her mouth. Investigation. My classmates and I have several years, but his background information still needs to be investigated. There is no change in him. It must have been a lot of effort to breed this green caterpillar. The Kim Cup this time is very interesting. There are a few guys who don't look like Tianjin City. Don't worry about it, let's see if he can hold on for a few rounds. While speaking, Lin Shi touched Ji Yunshi's head again. Hope he can hold on for a few more rounds, otherwise, he may not be able to meet me. Unable to cultivate, I can only raise soul pets 25. Chapter 25, Training Skills. It is night, the mysterious moon hangs high, and the stars shine in the sky. The quiet Yuehui followed the transparent windows and splashed on the figures in the room, outlining the contours of clear textured muscles. Wang Che supported on the floor with 2 fingers, his body stood upside down, supporting back and forth. He was wearing only a pair of shorts, with a slight sweat on his body, following the clearly textured muscle outline, dripping onto the ground. The green caterpillar on the side of was also on the floor above his head, and moved back and forth. But compared to Wang Che exercising, it is more like entertainment. After a while, Wang Che put his palm on the floor, and with a slight flick, he directly stood firmly. As the life-soul bond with this child strengthens, that wonderful life energy diffuses into the limbs, like quenching the body and washing the marrow. The body is steadily improving. Wang Che whispered a few times, although it is still just an ordinary person, it is obvious that this body has become a lot stronger. Since these days, he naturally exercises himself. But because they can't absorb soul power, exercise is just a simple exercise to keep the body in shape. As the life-soul contract with the green caterpillar strengthens, that peculiar life energy will automatically diffuse into the limbs, improving and strengthening all aspects of the body. The process is almost similar to Wushu's initial washing and quenching of the body. Such a magical rule contract made Wang Che very interested. He knows that the Chi Soul Master does not only rely on the power of the soul pet. Only after the spirit awakens can he show more powerful power. Naturally, he will never be weak. Then, having a solid foundation is naturally extremely important. From this point of view, during this period, I can take the road of martial arts first. Wang Che is quite subtle. When cultivating green caterpillars, Wang Che would naturally not forget to strengthen himself. Although he temporarily gave up cultivating immortals, Wang Che knew very clearly that his own strength was the fundamental strength. Therefore, these days, Wang Che has never forgotten how to make himself stronger. Wang Che glanced at the green caterpillar. If you let him fight with this kid now, there is a high probability that he will lose. Even, it may not be able to catch the tail. Don't talk about the green caterpillars, even those in the class who have a slightly higher soul power cultivation base, Wang Che may not win. There is no way, soul beasts are inherently powerful. Human beings were very weak before they started to practice without awakening their martial souls. The life soul deed can automatically increase the strength of all aspects of my body. Improve my innate aptitude, even if I cannot absorb the soul power. But as my body strength increases, I can practice some martial arts, at least to give myself a certain amount of strength. Wang Che pondered for a moment. Before Wu Hun awakens, the goal of this semester is not only to cultivate the green caterpillar, but he cannot fall. Of course, in this case, it is certainly not suitable for practicing some overly powerful martial arts. Basic ones are fine. Then, Wang Che took a bath and rinsed the green caterpillar. Then he began to think about how to make the green caterpillar cultivate a domineering soul outfit. The name comes from a certain anime that Wang Che is familiar with. He has been in Xiaolanqiu for hundreds of years, and he naturally understands all aspects. Borrowed this name only because it was suitable for telling stories to green caterpillars. In fact, the so-called domineering spirit is nothing more than a technique of using energy. In essence, it is a kind of control energy release. Normally, you will come into contact with it when you reach a certain level of cultivation. For example, his cultivating immortality is called Junyuan Weifang. External release of true essence can generally practice many powerful spells and skills. In the late stage of the general qi refining period, you can slowly comprehend it. Is not a difficult technique. This world also has soul power release. For many soul pets, they can slowly come into contact with them after they reach 100 years. Many powerful soul abilities of the genus require soul pets to control the release of soul power in the body, otherwise it will be difficult to comprehend. However, in addition to the external release of soul power, the domineering spirit of the soul is not just a release of energy. It is also a technique for controlling energy. Through high-intensity energy, it is attached to the whole body to enhance the body's defense power. Similar to it, Wushu's Qi protection body. A more common technique, but also a more practical technique. But, it is very suitable for the current green caterpillar. Because it is advanced, it can't learn it at all. In this world, a soul pet with a soul power cultivation level of more than 100 years can control the soul power in the body and try to release it. The green caterpillar now has only about 53 years, and 7 days later, it will have at most 70 years of soul power cultivation. It's hard to learn. A soul pet with a soul power cultivation level of more than 100 years basically possesses destructive power. If you want to cultivate the domineering spirit, you must first control the release of the spirit power in your body. To learn this technique in advance, you need a special method. Wang Che stared at the green caterpillar. The green caterpillar also looked at Wang Che. In the next few days, you have to learn how to be domineering. Wang Che said. The green caterpillar nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. It remembers this very clearly. After nodding, he looked at Wang Che expectantly. Wang Che took out the drawing paper and drew a sketch of a green caterpillar on the drawing paper, and then drew clusters of nebula-like spirit power in the body of the green caterpillar. This is the soul power in your body. Next, the soul power you need to control. Wang Che continued to paint. The spirit power in the green caterpillar's body in the drawing paper slowly flowed out, and then wrapped the body of the green caterpillar. Makes the green caterpillar in the drawing paper seem to be covered with a flame-like light, very cool. Immediately afterwards, the flame-like light covered the green caterpillar's body, as if it was covered with a layer of steel-like battle clothes. Happiness. The green caterpillar slapped the floor with its tail, very excited. Probably thinks, it's also cool. Excited eyes, as if saying, I want to learn. Try it first. Wang Che just briefly explained the principle. Didn't expect this child to learn directly. The green caterpillar nodded, and then started trying on the spot. Reading www.uakanshu.com. As if holding back urine, its body bends, shrinks, stretches, and bounces on the ground. But he couldn't control his spirit power. It can control the movement of soul power. But it doesn't work if you cast it directly. Quote. Wang Che. Wang Che was very speechless. This thing really depends on understanding. After thinking for a while, Wang Che said, wait a moment. The green caterpillar stopped and looked at Wang Che blankly. You can't do this. Wang Che coughed, looked outside, his mind suddenly moved. The location where he lives is probably on the 6th floor, surrounded by many cloud paulownia trees. In the wild, the stars flickered, and the branches and leaves of the cloud paulownia trees below also exude the white ons like fireflies. The picture is very beautiful. Wang Che pointed to a yuntong wood not far away, and said, come on, spin the silk, and spin the yuntong wood outside. The green caterpillar followed Wang Che to the window, and didn't quite understand what Wang Che meant. While spinning silk, feel the flow of your spirit power. Wang Che said, by the way, contact the silk spinning spirit ability. The green caterpillar nodded. It opened its mouth slightly and spit out a thread like silver silk. The fluctuation of soul power immediately appeared. Wang Che squinted slightly. Soul ability itself is a technique for using soul power, a powerful technique formed by combining the life forms of different soul pets. The same goes for the silking spirit ability. The silk thread spit out contains certain spirit power fluctuations, as well as the genus ability of the green caterpillar itself. After trying to spit out, don't cut the connection with the silk thread. Wang Che said immediately.